Hello there, fellow NPCs. I am Carbon Scythe, and I am scared shitless. Now that I think twice about it, I don't think that the ghost is going to show up right now. But I know that there is an elevator scene. I don't know if we will be able to find it in this episode. Maybe it's the next one. But there will be an elevator scene. And that is fucking horrifying. But now, at the letter, we are in the BRC building, trying to find more information about the disappearances and things like that. So, let's go. It's a quiet ride up to the 7th floor, where the BRC Luxburn main office is. Seb has been kind enough to switch the guest elevator's powers on. Just as I'm about to head for the fire exit stairs. Which is a welcoming relief. I'm an active guy, but stairs? I don't want to tire out too quickly in case things get ugly. There probably won't be any trouble with a building this quiet, but you never know. I swear the whole place definitely feels eerie at this time of night. I just hope I don't piss myself. But until I've confirmed anything, those are still just stories. Worse things can happen. No need to scare myself. Staying calm means fewer mistakes.
Though I sure am fucking gutsy, especially with
Oh yeah, we're all on our tippy toes right now. I'm breaking a lot of laws here. I'm also putting Isabelle in a lot of risks. Best thing that can come out of this is that Isabelle is right all along. Worst case scenario? 1. Someone finds out Isabella's involvement in this and her boss fires her. 2. I find evidence that would implicate BRC or Luke Wright in a crime, and my meddling, if I'm not careful enough, makes it inadmissible in court. Though I'll be honest, I strongly prefer losing my job or facing Wright over some spirit or ghost or whatever it is. I could always work around the problems with the former. Isabella could also find a better job. BRC never did pay her properly despite her efforts. Really now. But fighting off a phantom? How does one even do that? Do guns even work with them?
Yeah, not going to happen.
But tonight, I'm here to fix things. If I do it without leaving a trail, all the better. Good thing that's what I'm good at. Find a way into BRC with the help of a friend. Easy way in. What I'll probably never be good at is finding the proper words when a sitch calls for it. But seeing Isabella's small form beyond those doors, how she pushes through despite carrying an entirely different burden this time, how she pretends as if everything's normal, it's difficult not to try. People who have never looked beyond their smiles will never know, will never understand. Hell, even Rebecca's probably not aware of this. I get it. We have other problems at hand. I've done the same thing plenty of times to protect myself after all. But it's all in her eyes once she glances up at the few light wraps I give the door. She wastes no time in leaving the mess of papers on the table and opening it for me. Though even her confusion as she takes in my presence barely hides it.
Seb let you in?
The rough edge in her voice rings a whole different tune now that I'm aware why. But knowing is different from hearing it straight from her. I can't simply bring this up, can I? It's not a topic suited for casual conversation, and I doubt she wants to talk to me about it. As much as I want to help, there's a distance between us I'll never be able to cross. One that wouldn't even be there if it wasn't for me. Perhaps, if I had been more honest years ago and less of a coward, I might have been able to. Figures I couldn't even do that for the one person I keep telling myself that I care deeply about.
What can I say? I'm a very charming person.
Stoic as always.
To a rock, maybe.
Oh! This is the closest we can get to it, I suppose. The light banter, the fleeting chances, or sometimes the long bouts of silence. And it's enough. For me it is. Because even without words, it's comfort. With her, it's easy.
Must be a pretty cool rock then.
Ugh, get over yourself.
Hey now, I deserve some slack here. Today's supposed to be my day off, and yet here I am helping you out.
Helping. By standing at the door.
Oh!
Well, you're not exactly letting me in.
Despite what she says, she moves to block me when I try to enter. She must have expected this, the second we walked up the building entrance and counted on the night shift guard to bar me from the place. It's reassuring to know she's somehow worried about me, although it's a bit misplaced at the moment. Besides, her concerns aside, I really can't let her get into the thick of things without me. Not with all the problems on her plate right now.
Isabella!
Oh please, no! No! No!
Seriously, Ash. Seb might get in trouble for this. You might get in even bigger trouble with your boss.
And you're not?
Why did you scream? You're not even playing it off. What?
We've already talked about this back at Zach's. It's out of the question.
See, I thought there was something in there actually. Damn it. It was so out of context. Out of the blue. Left field. It didn't make sense.
At least do it for Seb, please. He's a really nice guy. With the way things are going here, he's...
On that, I agree with her. Seb's not a bad fellow. Might just be a little careless with his jobs and talks too much, but he means well. I'd hate to see the guy leave her with a bad record, in case something goes wrong. However, the anxious look she shoots back the table behind her brings an even bigger worry.
Did you find something? Aside from what you told me about yesterday?
Not yet. I'm not sure. I haven't started going through the files we have in the records room. Just the ones they handed to me in rows.
Let me see.
Wait, Ash!
Isabella, I already promised you that no one's going to get in trouble after we're done here. Even Seb. I'll make sure we leave the place clean.
Her hesitation's still there. A split second of indecision as she tries to form an argument. Eventually, when nothing comes to mind, she steps aside.
Okay, but we can't take the original files out of this office, clear? Not even a single sheet. We'll just have to make a copy.
Last time we did that, the ghost attacked us.
Don't worry, that's the plan.
It appears to reassure her. A nod, then shortly, she gestures for me to follow. Passing the sea of cubicles, I can't help but take in everything in their office. A force of habit for the most part. As far as I know, BRC Luxborn used to own this whole building. Offices in several floors, once upon a time when real estate is still a lucrative business for the company in this side of the country. Then, competition showed up and suddenly, everything's not so good anymore. It only got worse as the years went by, or so according to the rumors. Now the branch is just this floor, despite what the huge sign in the building facade says. And frankly, it's not too hard to believe when one looks at the state of this room right now. A number of desks have been cleared out. Personal mementos are scarce as if the employees had gone on an exodus. That'll be downsizing, probably. Still worrisome though. Of course, I shake away all this when Isabella starts handing me the papers she's been looking through. Focus Frey. There's no point in whining or dwelling any longer on it. That's why we are here in the first place. To find out what the real deal is the old-fashioned way. Isabella's presence is a whole other blessing too. I couldn't imagine how long this would take if I pushed going in here alone.
Is this everything? Where are the documents you mentioned?
Still locked up in the records room. Do you need them now?
Bring them here. Everything that has to do with the mansion's sale. Even those who worked on it during the renovations. The cleanup. Everything. Including your mandatory sign-in sheets.
It's an odd thing to bring up, but at least it elicits a laugh from her before she heads for the records room. She remembers. And no matter how weak the sound of it is from her usual ones, it's a welcome thing to hear. It reminds me that the Isabella I know is still in there. She returns a few minutes later with a thick stack of folders and binders. Ermengarde Mansion. For the next half of the hour, we work in complete silence while we dig into everything compiled in the folders. Not an easy task considering how thick the whole thing is, but there's two of us. In fact, Isabella does most of the work, sorting the contracts, the employee list, and stuff we won't need into a neat pile. Just the files for the restoration alone makes up a stack of papers that's an inch thick. Third-party service providers hired for the masonry, radiators, woodworking, plasterwork, slate roofing, and a whole bunch of other things are well documented. Hell, every single contractor who worked on the project was listed individually, even if they were just there to do the plumbing. It's a high profile and a high cost estate, alright. But with that scope comes the loopholes. Needs plenty of rooms to hide something in, if there's something fishy going on. All I have to do is find a pattern. And it doesn't take long. Upon closer glance, despite the original owners shouldering the renovations costs, it'll be surprising if they manage to break even on the Ermengarde Mansion. What with the additional expenses for the open house, the commission for their agents, and other overhead fees. At one point, the negotiations to get it listed under BRC's name almost broke down too. Some disagreement about the listing price. The owners wanted to be rid of it as quickly as possible while keeping the worth at a profitable level. BRC was insisting on a higher amount, double what the appraisers suggested. Jeez. Plus a rumor that their branch is closing. BRC Luxburn really is in the red, and the sale of the mansion could have easily been a desperate move to keep the branch afloat.
No wonder the final sale happened as fast as it did.
Yeah, and they even paid, what was it? 20% extra or something?
Did you know about this?
No, they took it off our hands after I submitted the final documents for the sale. I didn't even know until I read this. I'm not sure if Rose did. I've only been given the key to the records room after she... Anyway, my point is, they've kept all the files from me. Rose was the one who compiled everything from our side. And even then, she was probably not aware of this. There's only so much they let us know. After that, they just told us to wait for our commission, and that the legal team would handle the rest. The rumors are true, huh?
Seems so.
Jeez, this place is just unlucky. Going bankrupt while the rest of this crap is happening. But this isn't what we're looking for. What we need is the who. The people aside from Isabella and Cooper involved in this business with the mansion. And the how they are now. We can't do much with the outside contractors. They won't be on file. The employee list, on the other hand. Even with 2 people working through the pile, the whole task still takes quite a while. It's a quarter of an hour later when we put down the papers with a sigh and move on to the clients upon Isabella's insistence. For that, the signing form for the open house comes in handy. Ermengarde Mansion open house signing form. Something that gives me a laugh when I spy the fake name I wrote on the sheets. Okay, that is what she remembers. Hunter Wright, Luke Wright, Richard Frank, Usaya Ventug, Ash Lee. Oh no, that's the commissioner. Charles Lakenyas, Mercy Tai, Lauren Stiles, Madeline Williams, Beatrice Wilde. Oh, okay, those are the... Okay, what names did you take then? Ashley, perhaps?
Why'd I even pick this name? It sounds so lame.
What name?
Nothing important. Just focus on those papers you have.
Ashley.
We need to finish this soon, before Seb suspects anything.
She snatches the paper away before the thought of hiding it occurs to me. Not that there's much secret in it. Isabella found me that afternoon anyway, but still.
Ash Lee?
Yeah. Ashley, that's his car, right? I've been careless that day, telling Luke right without confirming where they were headed off to. While the butler's terribly efficient in keeping the right engagement from the public eye, there are other ways if only I've given the time of my day. In retrospect, I've been too eager, too impatient to find something that'll crack the case and be done with it. Maybe my failure goes as far back as the day of the open house, not during the party last night.
Yeah, well, I was pressed for time.
Seriously, Ashley? Were you even trying?
Oh, come on. You didn't even notice I was the one who wrote it down.
Of course I wouldn't. Only an idiot would use his real name.
Ooh!
Good work, though. Admit it. It's genius. Who would have thought, huh?
She responds with a roll of her eyes, then drops the matter entirely by shoving the paper back into my hands. We lapse back to our respective tasks afterwards, wordlessly skimming through everything. Read, set aside, get another one. Looking back at the signing sheet, I spot Luke Wright and Hannah Wright listed up top. Not that I don't know about them already, of course, but scanning through the list, a name immediately comes to my attention.
Madeline Williams.
Yeah, I did read that.
Something wrong?
Huh? No, just that I remember this girl listed here.
She frowns, moves her seat close and takes careful read at the sheet. It's a long moment before she speaks up again, but from the way she tenses, she appears to be expecting the worst already.
What about her?
She was with me, in the group following Cooper, when we toured the upstairs part of the mansion, I mean. Rather loud one, especially when we took a peek into the attic. Kept talking about the ghost stories the whole tour.
Do you? Do you think she's...
She was reported missing 3 days after.
There was a ruckus at the precinct the day after her family filed it. Threats were naturally given at the lack of progress days later. Desperate ones. Her family willingly to shell out all the cash they have just to find her. To no avail, unfortunately. Officer Benjamin has been in a bad mood ever since he spoke with them. But what can he do? What can we do? He's tired, we're all tired. There's only so much we're able to do, with everything that has been shoved into our hands recently.
She still hasn't been found. It's already been a week.
Isabella makes no further comment aside from a nod. Instead, she sits back on her chair with a distant look in her eyes, her hands balling to a fist as she struggles with her frustration. Or maybe it's anger. But the moment doesn't last too long. Soon her grip loosens and she folds her hands back on her lap. Her expression, however? What does one say to a person burdened not by one loss but many, who carries it in her shoulders like a badge of shame? I've yet to find the answer to that myself. Until then, the only way is forward. Press on to see where our attempts at fixing our mistakes might lead us. Despite my own doubts, a glimpse at the look on her face is enough for a reason for me. I can't just give up. There's too much at stake, too much to lose. With a renewed focus I continue. On the third and last sheet I spoke another one. Beatrice Wilde. One I recall from the newspaper obituaries. Died of a heart attack. A letter of correspondences expressing condolences to her family confirms as much in her files. Passed away at the age 74 in her sleep.
She's at that age. It certainly could have been a natural death.
Right? I'd like to believe so. But 3 more letters turn up when I rummage through the sack, and it leaves nothing more than foreboding feeling in me. They're all addressed to families of clients who have passed away in the past week. Regardless, these go into the pile of things worth looking into after our visit here, along with William's info sheet. Ah yes, so many names, so many faces, each one I've seen that day. And here I am wondering if they're all alright. It isn't a selfless thought that brings the question to mind. Rather, it's the logic that if more of them are still alive, the more people I can choose to question. Nothing concrete yet, of course. They are just speculations, but we're making progress. Once done with the signing sheets, I stash along with a growing pile to my left and pull out as many of the other documents Isabella has already prepared for me. We're working through the employee list now, those who have been assigned to the mansion. Because if Isabella was to be believed, if what she's been seeing at what happened to Rose Cooper is because of that letter, I need to know everyone who has possibly read it aside from the 3 of us. if they've been noticing strange things too. For all I know, these may have just been a terrible coincidence. Although the thought of that starts to diminish as we dig into the BRC's company files. 15 minutes later, a stack close to my elbow has risen from 5 to 21 different dossiers. Client and employee documentation, people who have either visited the open house or worked on their property in some capacity since the letter's discovery. Turns out, there are 2 more employees who have handled the mansion directly, aside from Cooper and Isabella. Christian Scythe, the realty specialist, and Mark Julius Jean-Marie, the estate appraiser.
This C guy, he was in custody just the other day.
C? Really? C? I would say Psy.
Really? Sir John has been looking for him. He stopped reporting to work a few weeks ago. Are you sure it's the same person?
Yep, this is him. Folks at the precinct said they went to his house after a noise complaint. They found him just acting all crazy. Had to take him in when he started getting violent. He kept screaming about a woman.
Immediately she stiffens. I don't want to bring it up or imply a connection to Isabella's story, but that is exactly what happened.
It was driving the guards mad, but he didn't last too long in there. A few hours in and he just started bashing his own head against the wall, and, well, it was messy to say the least.
That's the same thing that's going to happen to Zack, pretty much.
Oh no, we had no idea. Is he okay? HR just marked him as AWOL because none of their calls would get through.
He's in the hospital right now. I heard they're putting him into a psychiatric ward as soon as he recovers. He's still a bit unstable.
Jean-Marie, on the other hand, his employee files notes his date of leaving and even when his final payment has been given. Along with it, there's a letter to his family about the appraiser being found dead in the office. Communication is a hush-hush and there's mention of compensation if they don't talk about it to the media. Inspector Abigail has often scolded me for not regarding the reports on a regular basis, but I try to keep up to date as much as I can. When I do, I make sure I'm aware of the gist of what's going on in my city. This never reached the police ears or the health and safety executive.
Do you know about this guy?
One glance at her says everything. They've hidden it from the media. They kept it from the police. It's not surprising this will also be a secret from someone of Isabella's position in this company. Fuck.
Rose was looking for him last week. We haven't heard anything from him either. Until now. They never mentioned this to us.
Business is going under and someone dies while working here? Of course they want to keep that quiet. It's bad publicity. The whole thing is just getting freakier by the minute. Nevertheless, I hand the files for Isabella to make a copy of.
The pages with their names, addresses, and contact numbers will do. We'll start with the ones who live within the city.
Sometimes, there are things you really can't just brush off as a mere coincidence. In my line of work, once a pattern pops up, it's only right to be suspicious. Especially the thing with C. It hits too close to the stuff my own friends have been telling me.
All of this?
It's considerably thinner than the ones she brought in, yet somehow, the way she hugs the folders close to herself makes it seem heavier. Like she's hanging on to it in the same manner one will latch onto a lifeline.
Only the noteworthy ones.
And those that might still be alive. Might. She doesn't need to know that.
We can't check the outside contractors, but the guys with the direct connection to BRC and the people who attended the open house should be enough. We don't have time to see how everyone's doing, especially if what you said is true.
For a second, she appears about to argue, then quickly decides against it and hides it away before anyone reads the question in her face. Then, in a too abrupt motion, she turns toward the copier and gets to work. Soon, only the machine's constant thrum fills the air around us, while I keep myself busy cleaning up the mess we've made. The lack of the talk is awkward, to put it mildly. Disturbing, at worst. I gotten so used to letting her just babble away whenever it's just the two of us. I could tell, however, she wants to do more. She wants to fix this mess herself, and that desire makes her antsy. But at the same time, she's learning how not to be impulsive or stubborn, exactly as I've told her yesterday before agreeing to any of this. Or maybe these so-called changes have always been with her. Dire situations have always pushed people to change after all. Although seeing this happen in front of me only makes it difficult to find the proper things to say. In an atmosphere this tense and charged, what is left for us to talk about? Now let's check the journal. Just what did we find? What did we learn? Here we go. So far back. To confirm their suspicions, Isabella helped Ashton break into a Briar Realty Corporation Locksburner office at night. There, the files they found revealed a real deal with a mansion's sale that was unknown even to Isabella, and something possibly more terrible. Certainly not the news. What's worse is when you only realize all of this in hindsight, right after you already ran your mouth off.
You know, for a house your company seems to be in a hurry to sell, they still made quite a fortune out of it. Look at this. 1, 2, 3... 6.
6 what?
Are you sure they're planning to give your entire share for this? This isn't a small amount, especially given the usual cut. And their accounting department isn't in the greatest shape either.
Even if they don't, it's not like someone still needs it.
Fuck you! And that's the reason why people don't let me talk. Silence once again descends throughout the room, denser compared to the ones we've shared tonight. Behind me, I can still hear her movements, sharp and precise while she feeds originals to the machine. Then with one last click, all of it stops. Her feet shuffles lightly against the floor when she moves away. Something creaks softly, probably the table, as she settles her weight against its side. By this time, an apology is already at the tip of my tongue, but...
Belle,
Papa's gone, Ash.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Why the sudden music change? Within those scant few seconds, everything between us shifts and as the gravity of her words sinks. Right then and there, something harsh and immovable rises between us. Death is something I'm familiar with. Almost 10 years in the police force, and it's impossible not to be acquainted with it. But this is different from those dead bodies we've examined in forensics. A far cry from the victims we've found on a bad investigation. Those I could have easily distanced myself from. No emotional attachments, no need for pretenses. Yet somehow, I still find myself grasping for things to tell her, in a words of comfort that'll dull the pain. Because even without looking at her, her grief feels palpable enough, her pain, an immutable weight hanging over us. So, gently, I offer... Just stay busy is a stupid thing to say. Tell me about him.
when?
Tell me about him. Yeah. I don't really care if Isabella and Ashton gets together at the end of this whole thing. But he can still be a nice guy about it. When?
Huh? When what?
Your dad. I mean, when did you find out?
She doesn't answer. Not immediately, anyway. For a long moment, the hush simply stretches out before us, spanning across the seconds we let pass while we both simply stand there, waiting. Eventually, she exhales. Lightly, muted enough that I might have missed it, had I not been paying attention to her every moment.
Yesterday, around 3 in the afternoon there, Mama called. She told me he passed away in his sleep, and I guess I can take comfort in that, huh? That Papa wasn't in any pain when...
She trails off, releases another ragged breath hidden underneath her chuckles, each one mirthless, heavy with nothing but sorrow. Then she falters into silence, and for all my attempts at lightening her burden, I'm suddenly at a loss. Reassurances could only do so much, when her only reason for staying here has suddenly been taken from her. A hope yanked from under her feet right after it was generously given. And without that, without the one person who pushes her to endure these, although the shit she's going through, means nothing but a struggle. What does one say to a person fraying at the edges, slowly wearing thin and breaking? Are words even enough? What right do I have anyway? I cannot give her anything, apart from the lies that changed me as a person, and affections she may or may not even want for herself. Because no matter how easy she has wormed herself into our lives, how immutable her presence has become, her own heart will always yearn for something else. For home.
Tell me about him.
Huh? About what?
Your dad. Tell me about him. Anything. Just talk. Say anything you want. Doesn't matter what it is. I'll listen.
Silence again. As if she is testing the weight of my question. For what purpose it is. For a reason even I can't say right now. After a while though, she starts. Reluctantly, her voice hitching, faltering and stumbling on each syllable as she chooses her words. A rough start, but soon it steadies. And along with it, to keep company the stories from childhood and memories she is fond of, are the tears. A shoulder to cry on. Listen to Isabella's grief. Well, isn't that cute? Sad but cute. She can finally open up to someone. Despite this, in spite of the grief choking her words off, the hurt closing her throat, and the sobs racking her lithe form, she continues, like the mere act of speaking is a relief in itself. A release. She tells me of her father, the very person who named her, how she looked up to him, how she was a bit of a tomboy growing up in her attempts to imitate him, and how the man encouraged her to pursue what she really wanted. Perhaps even the only thing she ever did for herself, having grown up not wanting anything more than food to put on their tables.
He told me I don't have to listen to them. That I can do what I want. Every day, he'd wake up at 4, Ash. Because he'd earn more that way. And every single time, he'd give them to me. Whatever extra he earned, he'd hand them all. So I'd have something to use for my paintings. And you know what? Back home, just a good tube of paint costs almost as much as what we spend for food the whole day.
Oh.
But he'd always set something aside. Told me he wanted to see my paintings in a museum one day.
She pours it all of it out. Every little thing she loved and admired about him. Like this, it's easy to see why she has gone to such great lengths for him. Why she abandoned her dreams. Why she went against his wishes. Just to grant him another chance at life. Others will say it's her warmth that draws people to her. Or her cheer. Neither are wrong. But neither is the whole truth to her either. Because those who have never bothered to look beyond the surface will never see it. See her. See someone earnest. Someone who has always meant well, despite her underlying stubbornness. This is how she loves. Warm. Steadfast. Unflinching. You never meet many people like her. Not in my line of work. Not with the kind of people I've had to deal with. Always with something to hide. Always with something to lie about. Eventually, when you run across too many of them, you change. You become like them. In many ways, for a lot of reasons, she's the kind of person I want to be and be around with. Who made me feel I'm still worth something.
He didn't want me to leave. Begged that I should finish my studies first. In the end, I couldn't even grant him that one request. I'm a terrible daughter, aren't I?
You're not.
Huh?
Oh? What is now? This now?
You're not. I can't speak for your dad. I haven't even met the man. But I know you're not.
I'm not entirely sure where I'm going with this. The remark just came out. I'm stringing all of these together as I go. But one thing is certain. None of what I'm about to say is a lie.
The Isabella I know is a total klutz, but I've never seen anyone work as hard as she does. She's the type who wears her heart on her sleeve. Though it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's always in the right place. She's intimidated by a lot of stuff, but she knows how to appreciate the smallest things in life. Frankly, you've caused us no small amount of trouble since you barged into our lives. But when I'm with you, all of my worries seem trivial.
He is not only listening to her, but he is bearing his soul here. He's gonna confess to her. It has already crept up to my face when I turn this whole thing is about to take registers. Before I blurt the rest of it out, declare feelings I'm not even ready to reveal to anyone, much less to her, my hand comes up to smother the rest of it. Though embarrassment quickly takes the reins, before I can completely clamp my mouth shut.
And I'm pretty sure Zach and Becca think the same way. You have a nasty way of growing on people like that, and you know what? We got everything we needed in here. I'll just wipe the security recordings and we're good to go. While I'm at it, you better wipe the snot off your face. And you don't look very nice when you're balding like that.
Ass. Hastily, I gather everything. The personnel files, client documents, sales agreements and contracts. Anything my hands could reach. Let's read the journal though. Why did we jump back here? Oh, it's the same picture, but as a drawing. While gathering what they found, Ashton accidentally brought up Isabella's father. No. Isabella brought it up, who had apparently passed away the day before. Suddenly, her reason for trying to fix this mess becomes clear to him. In his attempt to comfort her, he ended up almost admitting something he's not yet ready to put to words. And that is where I end this episode. No elevator scene this time, but it will happen soon enough. Maybe right after this. Who knows? But yeah. Too bad Ashton couldn't say what he's feeling, you know. You gotta admit your feelings at some point in life. What better... Well, maybe not right after talking about her dead dad, I guess. But yeah. I will see you guys in the next episode. And remember, just because you're not the main character doesn't mean you're not important. Goodbye, everyone.